All praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. All praises due. Peace and blessing to the elect of Israel who are out there practicing or following the law of liberty. All praises to you. Hope I find you well today. So we're going to continue with our lost book series that I've been working on. I've been going through for the last few weeks, months, or whatever. So we're going to get into the apocalypse of Elijah. The Apocalypse of Elijah. It's a very powerful book, very interesting. Um, as you know, Elijah was a prophet. Uh, I guess 900 BC. You know, he came about during the reign of Ahab and his wicked queen Jezebel. You know, he was a very powerful prophet that was raised up by Yahweh. Elijah was called a Tishbite, which means captivity. And the Bible really doesn't speak about where he came from, but there's a city by the name Tishbe, which was a place in the boundary of the tribe of Naphtali. So it might be said that he might be from the tribe of Naphtali. The Bible really doesn't speak on it, because I always like to know what tribe these people came from, these prophets came from. But, you know, we could say that. Um, the word Elijah, his name means, may my power is Yahweh. My power is Yahweh. That's what the word Elijah means. So, yeah, it says that, you know, he came into prominence around the 9th century BC during the reign of Ahab. You know, he was very instrumental in fighting against the wicked uh, prophets of Baal. That was a Canaanite deity that Jezebel worshipped. And she had many wicked prophets. So Elijah came against them. He fought against them. Killed a lot of them too. Burnt them up by bringing fire down from heaven. You know, he worked a lot of miracles, man. He raised a widow's son from the dead. He also, you know, founded a prophet school of prophets. So he's one of the main prophets in the Old Testament. Not gonna get into too much of him. If you want to read more about Elijah, if you don't probably already know about him, you can find out in First Kings. I think his story's in First Kings. So, but anyway, a little background on this book, The Apocalypse of Elijah. It's a very interesting book. It correlates with a lot of eschatology, which is end time prophets, end time uh, prophecies, and it has a lot of similarities to a lot of the books in the New Testament. You know, like the beginning of the book, you know, it talks about the word of the Lord came to Elijah and comforted him and told him, do not love the world. Sort of like, you know, roughly like what we find in 1 John 2:15. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. So that's kind of what the Lord comes to Elijah and talks to him about. Then he talks about fasting, you know, set aside yourself in fasting so you can get more into the spirit, you know, into the power and really, you know, get in tune with Yahweh. And he also talks about, Yahweh has mercy on his people in the past and at the present time. He has come as a man to save us from our sin. So he talks about incarnating as a man to save us from our sin. This book talks about sort of like YHWH. See the similarities? You know. And it also talks about God will preserve his people from the man of lawlessness. Sort of like what it says in Thessalonians when Paul talks about the Antichrist. You know. So that's another, kind of similarity. So as we start to get into the reading of this book, you'll start to see a lot of the similarities that you find in the New Testament. So it lines up. It really does. It lines up. He talks about the king of Assyria, which we know today. You could say Assyria is like modern day, Babylon, or Assyria was kind of like where Turkey is now, modern day Turkey is. So you can kind of say Assyria correlates to Europe, Europeans. And then the Persians, which is going to talk about in this book, correlates to the Islamic countries, Saudi Arabia, Esau, our wicked brother, Esau, Iran, Iraq. And they're going to fight against each other. Then it talks about Egypt, in which we know we correlate Egypt today as America. America is modern day Egypt. So it's going to talk about all those things. It's going to talk about the Antichrist, talk about, end time, talk about worshiping idols, and all these things. So it's a lot in this book, man. A lot in this book. So I'm trying to keep this introductory kind of short, but that's just like a kind of introduction to it. So we're going to get into the reading of the Apocalypse of Elijah. The Apocalypse of Elijah. So, like I said, I'm going to try to keep these 20 minutes, man. I'm trying. But, I started getting into the reading. I kind of lose track of time. But anyway. So, chapter 1. The word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, say to his people, why do you add sin to your sins and anger the Lord power who created you? Don't love the world or the things which are in the world, for the boasting of the world and its destruction belongs to the devil. Remember that the Lord of glory, who created everything, had mercy upon you, so that he might save us from the captivity of this age. For many times the devil desired not to let the sun rise above the earth, and not to let the earth yield fruit, since he desires to consume man like a fire which rages in stubble. He desires to swallow them like water. Therefore, on account of this, the power of glory had mercy upon us, and he sent his Son to the world so that he might save us from the captivity. He did not inform an angel or an archangel or any principality when he was about to come to us, but he changed himself to be like a man when he was about to come to us, so that he might save us from flesh. Therefore, become sons to him, since he is a father to you. Remember that he has prepared thrones and crowns for you in heaven, saying, everyone who will obey me will receive thrones and crowns among those who are mine. The Lord said, I will write my name upon their forehead, and I will seal their right hand, and they will not hunger or thirst. Neither will the son of lawlessness prevail over them, nor will the throne hinder them, but they will walk with angels up to my city. Now as for sinners, they will be shamed, and they will not pass by the throne, but the throne of death will seize them and rule over them, because the angels would not agree with them. They have alienated themselves from his dwelling. Hear, O wise men of the land, concerning the deceivers, who will multiply in the last times, so that they will set down for themselves doctrines which do not belong to power, setting aside the law of power, those who have made their bellies their God, saying, the fast does not exist, nor does power create it, making themselves strangers to the covenant of power, and robbing themselves of the glorious promises. Now these are not ever correctly established in the firm faith. Therefore, don't let those people lead you astray. Remember that from the time when he created the heavens, the Lord created the fast for a benefit to man, on account of the passions and the desires which fight against you, so that the devil will not inflame you. But it is a pure fast which I have created, said the Lord. The one who fasts continuously will not sin, although jealousy and strife are within him. Let the pure one fast, but whenever the one who fasts is not pure, he has angered the Lord. Also the angels. He has grieved his soul, gathering up wrath for himself for the day of wrath. But a pure fast is what I created, with a pure heart and a pure hand, releasing sin. It heals diseases. It casts out demons. It's effective upon the throne of power for an ointment and for a release from sin by means of a pure prayer. Who among you, if he is honored in his craft, will go forth to the field without a tool in his hand? Or who will go forth to battle to fight without a breastplate on? If he is found, will he not be killed because he despises the service of the king? Likewise, no one is able to enter the holy place if he is double-minded. The one who is double-minded in his prayers is darkness to himself, and even the angels do not trust him. Therefore, be single-minded in the Lord at all times, so that you might know every movement. Chapter 2. Furthermore, concerning the kings of Assyria, and the dissolution of the heaven and the earth, and the things beneath the earth. Now, therefore, those who are mine will not be overcome, said the Lord, nor will they fear in battle. When they see a king who rises in the north, who will be called the king of Assyria, and the king of injustice, he will increase his battles and his disturbance against Egypt. The land will groan together because your children will be seized. Many will desire death in those days, but death will flee from them. And a king who will be called the King of Peace will rise up in the west, and he will run upon the sea like a roaring lion. He will kill the king of injustice, and he will take vengeance on Egypt with battles and much bloodshed. It will come to pass in those days that he will command a peace and a vain gift in Egypt. He will give peace to those who are holy, saying, the name of the power is one. He will give honor to the saints and an exalting to the place of the saints. He will give vain gifts to the house of the power. He will wander around in the cities of Egypt with guile, without their knowing. He will take count of the holy places. He will weigh in the idols of the heathen. He will take count of their wealth. He will establish priests for them. He will command that the wise men and the great ones of the people be seized, and they will be brought to the metropolis, which is by the sea, saying, there is but one language, but when you hear peace and joy, I will tell you his signs, so that you might know him. For he has two sons, one on his right and one on his left. The one on his right will receive a demonic face, and he will fight against the name of the power. Now 4 kings will descend from that king. His 30th year he will come up to Memphis, and he will build a temple in Memphis. And on that day his own son will rise up against him and kill him. The whole land will be disturbed. On that day he will issue an order over the whole land, so that the priests of the land and all the saints will be seized, saying, you will repay doubly every gift and all the good things which my father gave to you. He will shut up the holy places. He will take their houses. He will take their sons prisoners. He will order, and sacrifices and abominations and bitter evils will be done in the land. He will appear before the sun and the moon, and on that day the priests of the land will tear their clothes. Woe to you, O rulers of Egypt, America, in those days, because your days have passed. The violence being done to you, the poor will turn against you, and your children will be seized as plunder. Those days the cities of Egypt will groan for the voice of the one who sells and the one who buys, and will not be heard. The markets of the cities of Egypt, America, will become dusty. Those who are in Egypt will weep together. They will desire death, but death will flee and leave them. In those days, they will run up to the rocks and leap off, saying, "Fall upon us," and still they will not die. A double affliction will multiply upon the whole land. In those days, the king will command, and all the nursing women will be seized and brought to him bound, and they will suckle serpents, and their blood will be drawn from their breasts, and it will be applied as a poison to the arrows. On account of their distress of the cities, he will command again, and all the young lads from 12 years and under will be seized and presented in order to teach them to shoot arrows, guns. The midwife who is upon the earth will grieve. The woman who has given birth will lift her eyes to heaven, saying, "Why did I sit upon the birth stool to bring forth a son to the earth?" The barren woman and the virgin will rejoice, saying, "It is our time to rejoice, because we have no child upon the earth, but our children are in heaven." In those days, 3 kings will arise among the Persians, and they will take captive the Jews who are in Egypt, the Jews who are in Egypt, the Israelites who are in America. They will bring them to Jerusalem, and they will inhabit it and dwell there. Then when you hear that there is security in Jerusalem, tear your garments, O priests of the land, because the son of perdition will soon come. In those days, the lawlessness one will appear in the holy places. In those days, the king of Persia would hasten, and they will stand to fight with the king of Assyria. 4 kings will fight with 3. They will spend 3 years in that place until they carry off the wealth of the temple which is in that place. In those days, blood will flow from Kos to Memphis. The river of Egypt will become blood, and they will not be able to drink from it for 3 days. Woe to Egypt and those who are in it. In those days, a king will arise in the city, which is called the city of the sun, and the whole land will be disturbed. He will flee to Memphis with the Persians. In the 6th year, the Persian king will plot an ambush in Memphis, and they will kill the Assyrian king. And the Persians will take vengeance on the land, and they will command to kill all the heathens and the lawless ones, and they will command to build the temples of the saints. They will give double gifts to the house of power. They will say, "The name of the power is one," and the whole land will hail the Persians. Even the remnant who did not die under the afflictions will say, "The Lord has sent us a righteous king, so that the land will not become a desert." He will command that no royal matter be present for 3 years and 6 months. The land will be full of good in abundance, well-being, false hope. Those who are alive will go to those who are dead, saying, "Rise up and be with us in this rest." So I'm going to end it right there. That's the end of chapter 2. I hope this is a blessing with you. There's a lot of meat in this, a lot of symbolism, but it's going to talk about a lot of things that are really happening today. So all praises to Yahweh, all praises to YHWH. May God bless.